An ocean of options, she describes. Originally, God designed bacteria to be invaluable servants. They play a supporting cast, servant role, to plants and animals in His very good world, Genesis 1:31. And the vast majority of bacteria still display beneficial characteristics. That's what we need. It's the 5 to 10% that are detrimental and get the bad rap. In the human gut, for instance, they break down nutrients and produce vitamins that we can't make on our own, and we couldn't survive without. Did you get that? We couldn't survive without. They also make essential elements such as sulfur, phosphorus, and carbon from the soil. They liberate it from the soil. It's bound up in the soil and from living systems and from the hair follicles that fall from us every day. Fingernails, we have to cut the fingernails off. That's living tissue. Bacteria break that down and liberate the nutrients and basic elements from the soil, water, and air, sulfur, phosphorus, and carbon. We're primarily carbon. From the soil, water, and air, now make it available to new living things. In our fallen world, bacteria even break down deadly pollutants, such as waste products from factories. Wow! So there was and is a beautiful design. Bacteria are very small, and there's no way they could carry the full complement of genes they might need for every environmental situation they would face. It would also waste time and energy to replicate all that DNA every time the bacteria reproduced. Got it? So there's a better way to do it. Instead, the full complement of genes, called the pangenome, is split among varying strains of the same species. Furthermore, some species are capable of acquiring genes from other bacterial species, and we're going to learn how, and that's through the viruses that can't live on their own, can't replicate on their own. The material available to bacteria is like a genetic ocean that is constantly ebbing and flowing through bacteria, often via viruses called bacteriophages, phages for short, that infect bacteria and acquire and carry bacterial DNA to other bacteria. You say, oh, infected by a virus? But it's designed to do that, to share this information. So the infection is not negative unless they're pathogens and anaerobic. Anything new? She goes on to say, despite its wonderful flexibility, bacterial adaptation doesn't change a bacterium into a completely different kind of organism, because it doesn't result in the origin of novel genetic information needed for this type of change. In the case of bacteria, it is the alteration or exchange of pre-existing genetic information. So we don't have a new life form. It's simply the assimilation of the information. Bacteria, good designs gone bad, from Dr. Joe Francis. Everything in God's creation was originally very good, but now many microbes cause disease and death. What happened to change these agents? Displaced cholera. Cholera's bad, real bad. What can it do? It's an illustration that once had a good purpose, but have changed as a result of the fall and loss of information, now to cause disease. Cholera is a severe intestinal disease that humans get from contaminated food, water, or pizza. It leads to severe diarrhea, shock, and even death. Cholera is caused by the bacterium Vibrio cholera, which produces a variety of toxins. Interestingly, most species related to Vibrio cholera grow harmlessly on the surface of practically all shelled ocean creatures and some fish. They grow there by the millions on each little crab. There they perform a valuable task, breaking down chitin, Chitin is the main component of the hard outside shell or exoskeleton of crabs, shrimp, lobsters, and many other sea creatures. Without their help, oceans and beaches would be littered with billions of shells stacked so high, hundreds of feet high in the ocean itself. The breakdown of chitin also returns precious nutrients like carbon and nitrogen back to the ocean. So cholera has a noble purpose, a design purpose, but in the intestinal tract, it's a problem, and that's probably a particular strain. This is an illustration of how you can get a virus infects a bacterium, but it's no problem. But this has some errant DNA introducing it, and under stressful conditions, it multiplies and then produces the toxins that can be detrimental. So creation scientists would suggest that pathogenesis, death, or the state of approaching death, is a secondary state in nature, or that which can cause death, secondary state in nature. At least 3 possible changes seem to have occurred, and perhaps a combination of all 3 took place. These include modification of the original information, displacement out of place, and uncontrolled growth. That's what happens in MRSA. The methicillin-resistant bacterium is already present in colony with that which is not resistant to particular antibiotic, and you change that colony and its balance, and you get something lethal. So all of this is good design that has been corrupted. E. coli produces vitamin K. They help utilize vitamin B12, manufactures other nutrients, breaks down waste, and assists the immune system. It is part of a life-sustaining biomass for the intestines, and a loving sustainer, creator, and maker put all of this together. Viruses. Why did God make viruses? What is a virus? Viruses contain DNA or RNA that are found in all living things, but viruses can't reproduce themselves. They have to infect, invade, and be reproduced by a host cell. This is packaged in a protein coat. Despite this, viruses are not usually considered living because they are not made up of cells and cannot reproduce by themselves. Instead, the viruses will inject the DNA or RNA into a living cell, and the cell will make copies of the virus and assemble them so they can spread. Viruses vary considerably in their ability to cause disease. Many known viruses are not associated with a disease at all. Others cause mild symptoms that may often go undetected. Some, like the HIV virus that causes AIDS in people, appear to have come from some other species that did not cause the disease at all. Friendly viruses designed in nature. Most of the viruses are friendly. For instance, bacteriophages, or phages for short, are viruses that infect bacteria. The phages invade bacteria and reproduce in their host until their high numbers eventually rupture and kill the bacteria. When the ocean bacteria are ruptured, they release tons of carbon and nitrogen, so other living organisms can use them, or these nutrients are stored in mud deposits for later use. Wow! They restore proteins. They have a tremendous benefit.